Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about a common phrase I hear in the industry called perfect is the enemy of good. I think I didn't hear this until about mid 2000s when I was at Carbine. This is a phrase that basically means the time you take to make a feature perfect will take away time from making other features good. And it's commonly given as a warning that you shouldn't spend too much time on any one feature if you're not bringing all the other features up to parity with it. Sometimes I've heard this as an excuse to get rid of features early when you can't make them good enough. I think it's a good idea. By the way, I'm going to immediately go off on a tangent. I think it's a good idea if you want to remove a feature to do that as early as possible. I've met a lot of people, among them producers, who think that removing a feature is as easy as just going, okay, that feature's gone now. We delete it. I'll delete it from all future schedules. Oh, good, we're done. Most games, especially RPGs, the features are like threads that form a fabric, and you can't just easily delete one. I'll give you an example. Let's say you were making an RPG and you decide to delete crafting. Well, you can't just remove crafting without removing everything that's associated with crafting, including the objects that it would create, the items that are dropped to support crafting, like crafting materials or recipes. Now, some of you may go, oh, you can drop them anyway. It's just, the crafting materials are now junk you can sell. Well, now that's items that exist only to be sold, not to be used in some other way. Also, what would crafting recipes be if you just left them in the game and you're finding all these recipes for something you can't do? So you at least have to delete that. But it also causes a problem with item economy, because one of the ways I used to try to balance, item economy is by having all the sources of items in the game and use that to change up where some of the best items are available throughout the game. So sometimes the best item is at a merchant, sometimes the best item is as a quest drop, and sometimes it's crafting. Well, if you delete crafting as a source of items, suddenly you've lost one of your sources of items in the game. Those rows of best items that are at the levels that they're currently available via crafting now have to be made available somewhere else. And you have to figure out how to do that so they're only available at those levels. If you just throw them in a merchant's inventory and a player with a lot of money can buy it early, you've kind of defeated the whole point of how your economy is going to work. But anyway, I wanted to walk through examples of where perfect is the enemy of good affected my games. Outer Worlds is a good example of a game where a lot of features were dropped during the development because we could not get them up to the quality level we wanted. Either they were dropped or they were reduced to fallbacks. I kept a huge list of fallback features for Outer Worlds so that at any time we could go, oh, we're not going to be able to get the feature to this. Let's replace it with this easier, faster, simpler feature. But some of them were just outright removed because we couldn't get them to the quality level we wanted or bug-free, we just decided to take them out of the game. And an example I like to talk about all the time is Monarch. Monarch was originally designed to be 4 times the size it is in the shipping game. It was designed as the lawless jungle planet. It remained lawless, but we lost the jungle for various reasons. But the intention of it was, I wanted you to have a big open world to constantly explore, to go out into, to test new weapons, to find monsters, just to wander around. There's going to be a lot of respawning. It was just supposed to be a huge, open, sandboxy area. When we got removed, not only did we lose those qualities, but we lost a big hit to playtime. We thought Monarch would easily provide an additional 5 to 10 hours of playtime just in terms of exploration and combat. So all that was lost. Perfect is the enemy of good is often a warning about early optimization. I should have mentioned this in the optimization video I did previously. But one danger is that a lot of programmers like to do is they like to get their code, when they finish writing it, they optimize it right then. The idea being, hey, I just wrote this, it's fresh in my mind, I know ways of optimizing it. There's a lot of dangers in doing early optimization, and some of the big ones are, remember, optimization is either speeding up the code or reducing its memory footprint. Speeding up code that turns out isn't called very often anyway is a complete waste of time. If you have some code that is barely ever called, it's not going to make a huge impact in your profile of the game if you make it faster. Similarly, I've seen programmers speed up code that never is that slow to begin with. You know, if you use a really bad sorting algorithm on an array that's never going to be bigger than 5, A, it doesn't really matter what sorting algorithm you use, and B, why are you even sorting it? Why not just walk through it and find the highest number, smallest number, whatever it is you're looking for? But I've seen programmers do that, and that kind of early optimization to, quote, make it perfect, took away time that they could have spent on other things. Another example is reducing the memory footprint of something. And I talked about, places where people kept a whole array around. They'd create an array just to grab one small thing off just to sort it, grab something off it, and then throw the array away. But if you reduce the memory footprint of something that's created to make a calculation and then gives that memory back for garbage collection, you don't really need to worry about that memory. If a function's called and to do its work, it needs to look at several things and it creates an array of those things, does its calculations by multiple walks through that array, and then throws the array into the garbage collection heap, that's fine. I've seen people try to optimize that by saying, well, I'll grab an array that I keep globally so I don't have to keep reallocating it. Especially if this is something that's not called that frequently, if it doesn't grab that much memory, if it goes right back into the garbage collection heap and you have a really good garbage collection algorithm that gives you back memory chunks that you need to reuse, don't worry about it. That's a perfect example of optimizing too early. The other example I wanted to give, though, of an example of something I never got around to doing because of an optimization, and I've talked about this in a few places, but we spent a lot of time in original Fallout making sure that the walking animations didn't float. And by that I mean when they move, the footprints, their footsteps connect to the ground, and then when they move to the next footstep, the foot that's on the ground doesn't slide. In a lot of isometric games, you see them slide as they walk. We didn't want that in Fallout. It took a lot of time and effort from both me and the artists to make sure that happened. It had to be rendered in a very particular way, with a very particular focal distance and lens in, what we're using, Maya or Alias. Particular algorithms in the game, and how the art was cut out, put in the game, and then the animation was done. It took a lot of time to put in something that a lot of people don't even ever notice. So what didn't get done? Well, I'm sure if you play Fallout, you notice that because they only walk from hex to hex, when you go vertically, they walk in a very jerky way like this. One back burner thing I had that I wanted to do, that I never got to do, was when you clicked on the destination, if it determined that there was a path there along the hexes, it would just walk you in a straight line there. So it looked smooth. It would look better, even though maybe the angle, because we only had so many sprite rotations, wouldn't be perfect. They would just walk there, but they'd be walking partially out of hexes that hadn't been checked for blocking, which meant they might clip slightly through a doorway or clip slightly through scenery, but it probably would have looked better because they wouldn't have done that jerky walk up and down, and especially on things where most of the walk was along the hex path anyway, it would have looked great. You wouldn't have had any of those issues, and it would have looked much better. Never had time to do that. If you played Temple of Elemental Evil, its animations look way better. Its walking animations look way better because when you click somewhere, we take you right there, and because it's a 3D character, we have no trouble rotating them to directly where you want to go. And it kind of works that way in that it determines the path is free in that direction, but then walks you as smoothly as possible in angles to get you where you're going. Looks way better. Kind of wish I had done something similar in the original Fallout. Didn't have time. Why? Because I spent so much time getting those footsteps working, which my guess is 95% of the people playing didn't notice and didn't care, and I base that on the fact that so many other isometric games that were contemporaneous with us, like Diablo, didn't bother, no one noticed, no one cared. So I'm basically throwing this out as a cautionary tale of, and this is mainly to programmers, but it can be for artists and designers as well. If you spend so much time trying to get one thing perfect, you're going to lose time in everything else. You would rather have a game of everything being good and consistently good than a couple perfect things, a few good things, and then some bad things. Trust me, I've made way too many games that are packed full of features. I'm looking at you, Arcanum, that never got polished enough. They're not. I wouldn't even call them good because we were worried about making too many other things perfect. So just keep that in mind if you're doing game development, that perfect is the enemy of good.